Hi there, my name is Abu and welcome to my channel. In this video, I will show you how to create an entire website with a night mode feature using the Context API. So as you can see, I have this mock website that I built and it belongs to Jane Doe. She is a programmer with about 4 years of experience. But in this website, you can see there's a toggle button up here and you can toggle night mode on and off. And when the night mode is off, you can see there's a gradient feature that is a shade of green from a bit of dark green to white. But on night mode, it all goes away and even the text changes. Initially, the text is black, but on night mode, the text is gonna go to white. And if you notice down here, and when the night mode is off, and you can see the shade on this card is black, but when you toggle night mode on, the shade, the box shadow goes to crimson. And as you can see, also the header here changes and the text changes, and it's not really white so that it can hurt your eyes when you're reading. It's a shade of white, and you'll see how we'll do all of this using the Context API. So without wasting any more time, let's jump in and get started. So this is my initial website and this is how it looks. We don't have the toggle button. I don't really want to build this from scratch and you just watch me build this entire website, but I will leave this repository on the link in the description of this video. You can download it, and once you clone this repository to your computer, all you need to do is go to your favorite text editor. I'm using Microsoft VS Code, and when you open the terminal, you can just type in npm install and it should install all the packages that I used for this project. And once you do that, you can run npm start and you should see this exact look that I have over here. So the first thing we're going to do is start by designing the toggle button that is gonna appear on the top right corner. So onto VS Code after you've installed all the packages, and we're gonna design this under components. So I have one component currently, and that is the title component, and the title component is this one over here. What else do I have on this project? And I have sections, and in the sections component I have the hero section, and as you must have guessed, the hero section is this first one up here. And as you can see, I have a name. Hi, my name is Jane Doe, which is what you see up here. Hi, my name is Jane Doe, with a few designs, of course, that you can find in hero.css. And I have another section here, the description, short description, and that is it for the left side. And on the right side, I just have the photo that you can see here, and that is what you see on the right side. Really simple design. And I have a title component. So this title component is the one that you see. It just has a secondary title and a primary title, and I'm using props. So if you check out my about section, when I call the title component, I am sending who am I as a prop to the title component. And as you can see, I have here who am I, and I also have the primary, and that is my story, and I have here my story. Really easy and straightforward. I didn't want to have to build all of this from scratch, just so you can watch me build this all the way. And this video is just about the night mode, so you can find this code or you can straight away use the night mode feature in your next project. And if you haven't watched my video on props and components, you can click the link that you see on this video, or I'll also leave a link on the description. And what else do I have on this? Oh yeah, in the project, I have the about section, and the about section is also really easy. I have on the left is just an image here with a card. That is what you see here. And on the right is I have a header and I have a description, and that's it. That's the entire project. Really easy and very, very straightforward. So the first thing we're going to do is design the toggle component. So under components, we're going to create a new folder here, and you can give it any name you want. I'll just call mine nightmode. And in my nightmode folder under components, I'll create a new file. And by convention, components always start with a capital letter. So nightmode component.js. And in this file, I have the extension RAFCE, and this will create this boilerplate code for me. And I don't need this first line here. I can just delete it, and I'm gonna save that. And in the same folder, I will create nightmode. And you must have guessed this is the CSS design file. And that's all I'm gonna need for now. So we're gonna start designing our nightmode feature, or rather our nightmode button right at the top right corner. So the first thing we're going to do is, if you noticed from our project, we had two icons, one of the sun and the other is of the moon. So we will use a library called React Icons. You can just go to Google and search for React Icons. When you open this up, you should see a way of installing them. So I'll just copy this. Really easy, just copy it onto your application, open up the terminal, Ctrl+tilde and paste it there, and install React Icons. And once that is installed, or rather while it's installing, I'm just gonna search for sun, and you can get any that you want. There are so many suns, you can choose whichever you want. So the sun is gonna represent my light mode. So I prefer the BS sun, and I want it to be filled. So when you click on it, you can see it's copied to the clipboard. So I can just come back up here and all the way to the top. I'll move this down and I will import something, and this something is the Control V, the BS sun, from and React Icons and /BS. So that's what I want. I want to import this package, and there's so many. There's BS, then there's FA, there's font awesome. There's like so many you can choose from, but I prefer this one from BS, which works for me. You can choose any that you want, and I'll come back and search for the moon, and I have the BS moon fill, this one over here, and I'll just copy this also, copy to clipboard, back to my editor, and over here I'll also paste it here, Control V, and that is all I need from React Icons. So in this div, I don't need this, and I just want to call my two icons. So I have BS sun fill and self-closing tag, and I'm going to need a color over here, and I'm going to need something that looks like the sun. So I have this color already, so I'll just copy and paste it here. You can choose any color that you want, and I want to give this a class name because I know I'm going to edit it at some point. So toggle icon, sorry, that's not a spelling of icon. So toggle icon, and on the bottom I will need the BS moon fill. So I'll give it also a color. I have a color already, so I'll just copy the color that I have. You can choose any color that you want, but this is more like a dark color for me, and I'll give it a class name. It will just be the same, so toggle icon, and remember self-closing tag. And this div, I will have to design this div as well, so I'll give it a class name, and this class name I'll just call it toggle. That's okay by me. And then the next thing I want to do is to create another div, but this next div is what is going to hold the round button that has a fill of black. So this div, I'll give it a class name, and this class name is just going to be the toggle button. So I'm just going to save this for now, and for now that is all I am going to need. But let's see what happens. So we're going to start designing this. Nothing yet is appearing on our front end. If I refresh this, everything is okay, but we want to start designing that toggle button up here. So back to the CSS. First thing I want to target is this toggle. So this toggle class name is the one that is responsible for the look of this entire component. So to the CSS file, so .toggle, and what do I have here? So first things first, we're going to use display flex because we have three items here. We have the sun and the moon and this other div. So display flex, and then we're going to move all these objects around. You'll see what will happen. So first we want to align these items in the center, and we want to justify this content, and this justification we're going to give it space around. You'll see what will happen when you give it space around. So when I save this back to my application, why aren't I seeing this yet? Okay, so let me check my app.js. Have I imported that component? Okay, I haven't imported the toggle night mode component yet. But if you realize I have done something here, other than having many lines of code, because otherwise we would have this hero in a separate line, about in a separate line, I have something over here that I've called index.js. So in this case of the sections, I have index.js, and I am exporting this hero and about using one file. So there can be 10 components, but I will have one line of code to export all those components. Back to index.js. So I will just duplicate this line, Shift, Alt, and the down button. And what am I exporting? I'm exporting night mode component, but this is coming from night mode and night mode component. Very good. I don't need this. I don't need this anymore. Index, I can delete that. And onto app.js. On the top, import something from, I'll go to components and index from that file. And what am I importing? I'm importing night mode component. So this, I'm going to put it to the top. You can put it anywhere really. You'll see why you can put it anywhere. So self-closing tag, and then save it. When I come to my application, I should see it up here. So we have the sun and we have the moon. But why are they appearing like this? What's going on? So let's come back to night mode component. And if you realize I have not imported the CSS file. So onto the top, I want to import the CSS file. So import from the same directory, import the CSS file, and it should look a bit different. I have the sun and I have the moon, but that is not the look we're looking for yet. So onto the CSS, we still have some designs that we want to do. So we've justified the content, given it a space around. So we want to give it a Z index. So this Z index means that I have many components, but I want this component to sit at the topmost level. Just to be safe, I can give this a 20. Yes, to be safe. 10 is okay, but we can just keep it at 20 to be safe. And I want this position to be fixed, because I want it to be fixed in one position so that even though I scroll down, you see for this case, this is not fixed. So when I scroll down, I want this to stay visible up here on the top left corner. That's why I'm giving it a position of fixed. And I want the distance from the top to be 10 pixels is enough for me. And I want the distance from the right to be 10 pixels as well. That's good for me. And I want its border to have 1 pixel stroke, and I want it to be solid, and I want its color to be a hint of black. 333, 333. What else do I need? I need to give it a background color. So the background color of this is going to be white. Oh, yeah, I'm just going to give it white smoke. And I am not a smoker, by the way, but I just love the white smoke color. I think if it's too white, it's again too bright for your eyes. So white smoke is good enough for me. And I want to give it a width of about 50 pixels. It's good for me. And I want to give it a height as well. Height is going to be about 25 pixels, half of that width. And I also want to give it a border radius of 20 pixels. So I'm going to save this and back to my application. What do you know? I have my design already up here. I have my sun and the moon and width of 50 pixels, and I have a height of 25 pixels. Very, very nice. And position fixed, like I was saying, you see what it means? That is going to stay fixed. And when you scroll, it's going to stay at the same exact position. The next thing I want to design is the toggle button. So if you noticed, I have the sun on one side and the moon on one side. In case you didn't realize where these are coming from, when you look at the night component, I have them, this is one item, and I have the second item. So when I say display flex and align them center, so the next thing I want to design is the button. So toggle button, one thing I want to do, I want to give it a width of about 25 pixels and a height of about 25 pixels so that it's going to fit inside that parent div. So 25 pixels. And border radius, I want it to be circular, so I'll give it 50 pixels. And I want the background color to also be a shade of black, so 333. And this position is going to be absolute. And absolute means that you can move it around the fixed parent. You're gonna see this in action really soon. And I want the cursor, when somebody hovers over this, I want the cursor to be pointer. So I'm going to save that, and when I come and see, I see something like this. What is going on? I need it to be circular and border radius, not just border, but border radius, and I should see circular. Perfect. But right now, currently, it's in the middle. Let me show you what we're going to do. So if I said left, 0 pixels, and I save this, it should come to the left, okay? And since the length of this, the width is 50 pixels, but the width of this button is 25 pixels, that means if it's on the left, it has occupied 25 pixels of the parent. Remember, the parent width is 50 pixels, but the width of the button is 25 pixels. So if I move this left 25 pixels, it's gonna go all the way to the right. How cool is that? So we are going to use this in our context API to move it around. You're gonna see this in action very soon. I don't really need this here, so I'm just gonna delete that and I'm gonna save it. So what are we gonna do next? So this is where we are now going to start managing the state of this application. Initially, what we would do, we would just go to app.js and then create here a use state initially, and then initiate the state to false. And then when it's false, of course, this should be, night mode should be off when it's false. And when it's true, night mode should be on. We could use app.js and then create some state here using the use state. But just imagine you have 1,000 components. I mean, if you haven't watched my video on Context API, you can also click the link somewhere on this video. I will also leave a link in the description of this video. But if you have like many components in your application, it's a bad idea to manage state in one component, because this means that you're gonna have to run your props from the parent to another parent to another parent until you get to the child. And this is what is called prop drilling. And we always try to avoid prop drilling when working on React applications. So we have two solutions. We have the Redux, which is a third-party library, and then React has something called the Context API. And I have the video on the Context API also. You can watch it, link in the description. And that's what we're going to use in this application. So what do we start? We're going to start in the source folder, and I'm going to create a new file, and I'll just call it context.js. And this is where we're going to handle all our state for our entire application. And then we can pick this state in any component without using props or without going into prop drilling. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to import something from React. And what are we importing? We're importing createContext. This method is going to help us create the context API. And we always have to export this context. So export context, we're going to just call it theme context. You can give it any name you want, doesn't matter. And we're going to say create context. And then also we have to initialize our initial state for the entire application. And this initial state is an object, and I'm just going to call it night mode, and it's going to be false initially. And now we're still building our context API. So we've created the context and we have also initialized our state. So the next thing we're going to do is create a reducer function that our useReducer function is going to initialize. Okay, if this is confusing, don't worry about it. You're going to get it soon when we build this. So useReducer, this is the function, and this useReducer function takes two parameters: the state of the application, because what the reducer does, it takes the state of the application and then it grabs an action that has been dispatched by a certain component and then modifies this state and then returns the new state of the application. If this is confusing, just go along with me and you're going to understand it very soon. And this action is the action that is going to be dispatched by that specific component. You're going to see this all in action very soon. In this useReducer function, we're going to switch it. And over here, we could have used if and then else. If you've used if else before, the switch is just like if else. But when we are working with the reducer, by convention, we use the switch. So the switch takes an action, but this action has two properties. An action can have a type and an action can have a payload. So in this case, we're going to switch the type, and the type that we're going to switch here is going to be the toggle. So the case here, we're going to have the toggle, and this is the type of the action that we're going to switch because we're toggling night mode on and off. So it would make sense to call it toggle as one of the action types. You can call it anything you want, but I'm just going to prefer to call it toggle. So when an action type is toggle, what do we want to do? This is very, very simple. We just want to take the state called night mode, and in this night mode, the one you're seeing over here in the initial state, because remember, this takes the entire state, so it knows what is in the state of the application. So in this night mode, what do we want you to do? I want you to save the state dot night mode, but I want you to save the opposite of whatever is in that state. So for example, if the state is false, and when someone clicks on this button over here to toggle the night mode, change that state to the opposite of what is already in the initial state. So for example, if the night mode is false and somebody clicks on the button, the new value is going to be the opposite of false. This exclamation just means the opposite. And the opposite of false is true. So the state night mode is going to be true in the next run. I hope that is not very confusing. This is all we're going to need in this case. And down here, we need to have a default value to fall back to in case anything happens. So we're just going to return the state as it is. In case this is not executed, just give me back the state the way it is. And down here, this is also the most important bit of it. We're also going to export what is called a theme provider. It's called theme provider because it's going to provide the entire state to the entire application. So the other thing we're going to do is we're going to destructure the useReducer function, and this is where we're going to destructure it from. So useReducer is expecting a state and a dispatch function. And this dispatch function is the one that dispatches the actions that we're going to need in the entire application. So useReducer, and when I get that, you can see up here, it's going to be imported, and this is coming from React. So there's no third-party library. Use createContext and createReducer are all coming from React. And this is going to expect some function. And what do you know? We created the function already up here. So it's going to expect a function, and this function is theme reducer, and it's going to expect the initial state so that it can know when to change the state and what in the state it should change when the reducer function is called. So down here, what are we returning from this function? All we're going to do is return something here, and we're going to return theme context, and which is our context up here. So we're returning theme context dot provider. It's going to have a value as the props, and this value is gonna have the state, and what else is it gonna have? The dispatch. So where am I picking this? The state and dispatch. I'm not picking them from anywhere else. I'm picking them from here, from my use reducer, because I want my entire application to be able to access the state and the dispatch function. You're gonna see all of this. And remember, one thing you need to do is we're going to have to do props.children. You're gonna see why we are using props.children, because our entire application is gonna come down here. You'll see why we need to do that. So I think with that, our context has been created and we're going to try it out. So I'm going to come to app.js. We could put our theme provider down here, but I don't want to do that. I want to put all of this in index.js. So in my index.js, because I want to keep the app component as clean as possible. So from the top, I want to import the theme provider from context API. Very good. And over here, I have to wrap app.js inside the theme provider. So theme provider, and I'll just get this, cut it from here and paste it down here, and then Control V. Are we still seeing our application? Yes, we are. So if I hadn't put these props.children, let me show you what will happen. And I save this, nothing is going to appear here because we are wrapping the entire application using the theme provider, but we have not catered for its children. So we need to put back this and props.children, and I should see the application back. So careful there. I have all of this set up. Now I want to test out this button over here. Take it to the left and take it to the right. And now back to nightmode component. How do we use this context that we just created? So in nightmode, I need two things. First thing that I'm going to need the use context from React. So on the top, I will import something from React. And in here, I'm going to import the use context. And down here is where I'm going to define this. So constant, the theme is going to be equal to use context. And where am I getting this context? From the theme context. As you can see, it's even giving me the file path. So theme context, and it's going to automatically import for me. VS Code is very, very intelligent. So how am I going to use this? So nightmode. Remember, this is just bringing the context, and the context I have in the context, let me show you. I have from the value now, I have the state and the dispatch. Let me show you how these values are coming in. So over here, I could say name, and I'm going to give it Abu. So when I save this, and I will come back to nightmode over here. Let me first comment this out. And I want to just console.log so that you can see where the context is coming from. So I'll log the theme, and when I save this, back to my application, everything is running. When I press F12, I can access the console down here. When I access the console, you can see I have an object down over here. And what do I have in the object? I have the dispatch. And where is the dispatch? This is the dispatch over here. And I also have the name, which is Abu. And the name Abu is coming from here. And I also have the state. And the state is nightmode and false, which is the state over here, which is the state over here. Isn't that so cool? That is so amazing. So I don't need this name. I can remove this name now. I don't need it. I was just showing you where that is coming from. So save it. So now I only have two in this object. I have the dispatch and I have the state. That means this theme that we just created over here is now having the dispatch and it's having the state. So I want to access the state. So constant night mode is going to be equal to the theme dot state dot night mode. Okay, maybe I'll just switch this to night, not to confuse you. So this night mode here is what we're accessing from the state. And in context, you can see I have night mode over here in the state. So that's what we're trying to access. So whatever value that is there, that is what I'm accessing. And now back to night mode. What do we want to do with this button here? Remember the left 0 pixels and left 25 pixels? We're going to employ a ternary operator. So using the style prop, I'm gonna just call left and I'm gonna use night, which is what I have up here. If night is true, question mark, and then if it is false, full colon. So if night is true, what do I want to do? I want to give this left 0 pixels, and if it's true, I want to give this left 25 pixels. So save that. Back to my application. I'm gonna close this. I have the night at is now 25 pixels, meaning that the night mode is off. So this button here is at 25 pixels from the left. Let's try it and just go to context API and change this to true and save that. Back to my application. I should see it on the left, so which is 0 pixels. And this means the night mode is true. Isn't that great? That is really awesome. But now, how do I bring in the click? Remember, every div has an on-click prop. So on this div, when I click on this button, what happens? So on click like that, what do I want to do? I want you to handle the click, okay? When I save it, obviously I'm going to have an error. It's going to tell me handle click is not defined, but then I'm going to define my handle click up here. So constant handle click, it doesn't take any parameters. And all this is going to do is set the night mode on and off. So what happens here? Remember, this theme has a state and dispatch. So I'm going to take the theme again, dot dispatch. And this time I want to dispatch an action. And what action am I dispatching? This is again an object. I'm dispatching an action of type. What is the type again? If you remember, is called toggle. So the action that I'm dispatching is called toggle. So I'm going to save this. Back to my application. Everything is okay now. I can reload this. And currently this is true. Let me change this back to false so that this can mean that our night mode is false. So what happens when I click on this right now? Let's see. So when I click, there you go. It's now true. And when I click again, it's false. When I click, it's true. When I click, it's false. And all this is coming from this function over here. When I click on it, it dispatches an action. And what happens to the action? It just changes whatever is on the state. Just give me the opposite. If it's true, make it false. If it's false, make it true. This is really easy and really amazing. So just in just that line of code, we have our toggle working and it's sending this. This is amazing. I can click this all day. It's really nice. So what do we do now? The first thing we're going to do is let's start by changing the text of the entire application. So I'll come to app.js, and in app.js, what do I want to do? I want to bring in the context. Same thing. So constant theme, the same thing we did before is, so we're going to use context. It's down here and it should import over here automatically. And what am I importing? The theme context. It's over here. It's going to import it for me automatically. Very nice over here. And remember again, in this theme context, we have the state and the dispatch. So in this theme, I want you to access the state, and in the state, access night mode. We are done. And down here, using the style prop, I'm gonna say background color. I will use a ternary operator again. So if night is true or if it's false. So if night mode is true, my background should be a shade of black, that is 222, 222. And what if it's false? I should have a bit of white. So I have this color already, just paste it there and save this. And let's see what happens. Back to my application. Bam. There you go. And white and black and white. This is amazing. I love it. And the next thing I'm going to do here is give it a color. So text color, what happens when night is true and when night is false? So when night is true, my text color is going to be a shade of white. I have this color already, so I'll just paste it there. And when night light is false, I just want it to stay as 222, 222. So save that. Back to my application. What do you know? My text color has changed to a shade of white, and it's now back to black, and it's now back to white. And all of this is coming from the style right here. So it checks when the night is true, and this is coming from the context. It gives it this color. If it's false, give it a shade of black. So now this is where context API come in handy. So now we want to work on this up here. So when this is true, when this is false, yes, this is nice, a good color. But when the night mode is true, or when we're on night mode, the text changes to white, but the background is still having this shade of green. So what do we do here? That is where we will have to go to the sections and the hero section. And in the hero section, we have the hero part up here. So we can check on what exactly we were targeting with the background. So we were targeting the background and it had this linear gradient. So in the hero section, we're going to add a style here, and the style in the background. This time we're going to use the and in JavaScript. So again, from the top, I don't want to write this all out, so I'll just copy this and come and paste it up here. Okay, I copied the return. I don't need to copy the return. Good. And I need to import use context, and I also need to import the theme. Let me see if this will import it automatically. There you go. Style in the background. So I'll use the and operator. So if this is true, what do? Give it a background color. And this background color is going to be 222, 222. So save that and back to my application. There you go. This looks amazing. Really, really nice. But I still have something down here, and I want to also change this to black, and I'll just have my whole website to be black. You can play with the colors the way you want. So I'll just change this to be black also. And I could just copy this actually. I don't need to do much here and paste it here. And on this, other than the background color, we are just going to set the display. Display, if that is true, just display should be none. Don't show me that when nightlight is true. There you go. So it's there and it's not there. Perfect. This is perfect. And now let's target this box shadow. We want to change it to crimson during night mode. So now, as you can see, I'm not using any props. I'm using context API. I might not even need app.js. So now I want to go to the about section and I want to change this card. So the card that has a shadow is this one over here. Again, I'll just come back to app.js and maybe copy this again. I don't want to type it out. So in about.js on the top, paste it there. And I want to import something from React. And what am I importing? Use context. And over here, let me just start typing this again, and maybe, yes, VS Code has picked it. Very nice. And on the card over here, first I need to define my color constant. The color is crimson. This is going to be, I have this color already, so I'll just paste it there. And on the card, let me first go and pick these exact figures from the about component. So where is the card? Over here. I need these exact figures over here so that it stays the same, has the same look, but only the color changes. So style prop and box shadow. What do I have here? And I'm going to use the backticks and paste that in, and I'm going to bring in my crimson color. So save it. Back to my application. What do you know? It just changed already over here. Perfect. And now, okay, something is happening. Back to the box shadow. Oh, we forgot one thing. When night is true, and keep that box shadow. Okay, that should do it. And then it's black, and it's crimson, and then it's black. So that right there is how you can use the context API to add in the night light feature. So I'm going to leave you with one exercise to do. And now you have this my story. I haven't changed its color. So when I change it to the night mode, you can see the color is a little bit different from this. So what I want you to do, try to play with this my story. So this is the title component. So when you go to the title component over here, components, title here, I want you to do whatever I have been doing to change the color by importing the use context and also importing the theme context, and then you change that color to a shade of white. So that is going to be your assignment for this, and I hope you can start using night mode in the rest of your applications from this point forward. And if you have any questions, leave them in the commentary and I'll try to get back to you. And if you like this video, you can like and subscribe to my channel. And with that, I'm going to say stay hungry and stay foolish. See you on the next video. Bye bye.